call the meeting to order. No one from the public is here, so we can move on to consideration of the October 13th minutes.
Oh, yeah, sorry. You can pass those down if you could. Anybody needs one?
Do you need one? I'll send it to him. There's one typo in the minutes underneath the approved airport mural. I think there's a FRQ versus RFQ.
Huh. Thanks.
With that change, I'd make a motion to approve the minutes.
Can we get a second?
I'll second.
Eddie seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Wendy, there was a artist mentor that's the South District wants to use?
Yeah, you see my memo in the packet. I didn't include all of the applications from the mentors, but I did bring one copy of them if anybody wants to look. But essentially, we got 3 applications. One was from California and didn't seem to have public art experience, so in conversation with Eleanor Levin, we decided that person wasn't a really good candidate, and had the 2 others to discuss from there. One was Andre Wright, which some of you may know. He's a local person who's been involved in many different aspects of the community. He worked for a while at the Iowa City Area Development Group in a mentor role, actually, for small businesses. He's now he now is involved in his business, which is the Wright House of Fashion, and is basically running a business that encourages young people to explore their own artistic careers. And he's really at the beginning of this new career. From his application, we couldn't quite tell if he had experience in any kind of construction or welding or the kinds of skills that you might need in order to mentor somebody who also didn't have those skills. So we asked about that, and he said in college, because he has a BFA, they did use all of those tools and skills. But, however, he would call on people within his organization to bring that expertise, and rather, instead of him as a single mentor, have his organization be the mentor. The other and third applicant was Ray Michael, who has a BFA in sculpture, and lots of mentoring experience, lots of construction and fabrication experience, and demonstrated mentorship in terms of being in art classrooms with young people, and including both locally and also in Vancouver, Washington. He mentioned the Fab Lab and how that could be a resource for folks, which was a great connection for him to make, I think, in terms of the application. And lastly, he's from the neighborhood, and he lives near the stop. So for those reasons, his application really stood out to Eleanor Levin, and I concurred with her that he would be a good artist mentor for this. And I think if you all concur, please discuss, and we can vote. You can vote on having Ray Michael be our artist mentor for this project.
Yeah. Seems like a great choice. I mean, great experience.
Seems really ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually think there was a connection. I don't know if they're friends or not, but Jeremy Ensley, who isn't here, I thought he would be, I think either knew him or encouraged him to apply as well. So, yeah, it's a good thing. Was that a motion?
Make a motion.
A motion to approve of Ray Michael as the mentor?
A second.
Okay, Eddie
Great.
and Jenny.
All in favor?
Aye.
Exciting.
That is cool.
Oh, I know.
Timer or something?
We need to get up and dance, I think, or something.
Motion,
Oh,
right?
not a motion. Wow, we're really
Yeah.
exciting in here.
Okay, so then I wanted to ask your advice next. I'm not sure, since I haven't been doing this too long, whether or not the committee approves all of the agreements that we make with, say, the artist mentor in this case. Of course, we work with our city attorney's office to write them up, and they essentially, and I did bring a copy of a draft so far, and I'd be happy to share that with you. Take one and pass it. The city attorney's office really takes all the details from the request for qualifications, and there are a couple things in here that I wanted to call your attention to. One is on the front page. You can see under scope of services, the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That comes right out of the RFQ, and we noted estimated hours in italics in the RFQ. Do we want to do that in the agreement, do you think? Does that, I remember we had a discussion around that perhaps being too rigid, but we also wanted to impart that we thought, you know, being a good mentor would involve a lot of hours. So I wanted to get your feedback on whether or not we should include those estimated hours in italics in an agreement.
I think that seems really appropriate. I mean, it gives a sense of scope.
But being an estimate, it doesn't like
Yeah.
hold them to it necessarily. It's not like they're having to hit exactly 10 and 20
Right.
for each, but it gives, it kind of outlines the scope.
Expectation, maybe. What do you think, Ron?
I guess typically, I don't think I would see that in the scope of services. Typically, you would see it either underneath the time of completion or the compensation for services. But I don't have a problem with it being in that location. I mean, especially since it says estimated. I mean, it's a lump sum contract anyway, so it's not like, you know, if they put 2 hours, they're, you know, I mean, they're gonna get paid, whether they put 2 hours in or they put 100 hours in,
Yeah.
you know. I don't see an issue with having it listed.
Okay, I'm sensing a concurrence here. Anybody object to that? The next thing were the dates, and that was on the back of that page, in that table. We just adjusted the dates for various benchmarks along the way here, due to not having had that mentor and it taking basically 3 months to get that part of it done. So we just bumped everything back so that we would work with this mentor through November on the RFQ for the emerging artist. We would publish that by mid-December, if not earlier. And a month later, we would have a deadline for those emerging artists. And then at the end of January, the South District neighborhood representatives will have selected the person, along with the mentor, that they think would be appropriate for this job. And then their recommendation would come to this committee February 2nd. By April 7th, the South District neighborhood would have approved final designs, and by May 4th, share those final designs with the committee in hopes of getting the thing installed by September of '23. That sound reasonable to everybody?
One of the things that appears to be missing from the scope of services is the RFQ writing.
Okay.
Because it says the artist mentor assists in writing RFQ for emerging, it talks about will participate in the selection of the artist. I don't know if we want to include in there development of the RFQ.
Yeah, that's what Eleanor had expressed, wanting to have the mentor involved in writing up the RFQ because they're going to be instrumental in choosing that artist as well. So we'll add a bullet for development of RFQ. Then the bit about payment, the $2,000 lump sum, and I'm trying to find where that is at this point.
Section
Point
2,
3, yeah,
compensation for
right under the
services.
table.
Okay, looking right at it. When we pay a lump sum out, do we normally pay it at the beginning of the project? No, I was thinking end?
Normally it would be at the end.
Okay,
I mean, I think,
It's been split up.
yeah,
Sometimes.
yeah, I mean, it's a small fee.
Do they use some of it for materials?
no, this is all for
Oh.
consultant fees, basically.
Okay.
So, yeah. It gets a little weird. So I guess I'm gonna go back to the time of completion. So this contract that we're signing is actually for the artist mentor, right?
Yeah,
And so it gets a little weird when we're incorporating the project timeline into the artist mentor, because I'm not certain that they have the control of the project. But
maybe we could clarify it by saying something like,
yeah,
not rough outline of timing, but preferred schedule for completion or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, the way it's phrased at the top there, the consultant shall complete the following phases in accordance with the schedule shown.
Mm.
It's not, they don't really have complete control over that if it's not them making it. Unless that is the intent, that they're like sub-consulting basically
so it'd be like the construction manager. Of the, yeah.
Could you include something with mentorship in that? So shall complete mentorship through the following phases? Would that make it a little more clear?
Yeah, and through the following phases, we want to, I think we want to impart that somebody needs to be responsible for these dates. Maybe we can just say mentorship and guiding the emerging artists through the
To-
process to meet these
Yeah.
timelines, this timeline.
Is the intent that you'll have a contract with the emerging artist also?
Yeah. Anybody else wave you out?
Oh, my God.
I got it. Okay. That didn't take very long. It's only like 10 minutes. Okay, and then, so back to the lump sum.
So, I Yeah, so I guess if there's, I mean, as you look at the time of completion, or you look at, how, I mean, I think we could pick points that you could pay out,
Right.
right?
Like half of it halfway
Right,
through
yeah,
and,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, when they meet whatever timelines, or, I think that'd be fine. You could call it certain pieces, and so it doesn't exceed the,
okay. I think I prefer that too, just as sort of motivation.
yeah, I mean, it seems, I mean, yeah, you're kind of, right? I mean, it's not a large sum anyways.
Yeah.
and-
Maybe half at the approval of the final design and half at the installation? Does that seem reasonable, or is that too late in the process, you think?
Seems like a reasonable place where there's work that goes into it beforehand, but the product hasn't really been started yet, so that would make sense to get paid for that planning process and then get paid once it's manufactured and installed.
Yeah, unless you wanted to put something in there for the selection, the actual working and the selection of the artist. Whether it's a quarter or whatever for the, actually getting through the RFQ and selection process, then half of whatever's left, and then,
Yeah.
the remainder.
So like,
Like have three separate
Mm-hmm.
payments.
500 and then 750 and 750.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. Then we don't really call that a lump sum, I guess, do we? Probably refer to it as something else.
but
Yeah,
at the following
like it's
intervals?
still a lump sum, but it's, based on meeting the time, whatever timeline,
Okay.
meeting those milestones.
And I guess the question is, and I'm sorry I sprung this on you because I wasn't sure if you all approved these or if we just,
Typically, I don't believe we have approved them in the past.
okay, so maybe I'll take your advice, work with Sue, the city attorney, to complete it, and be good from there.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Got consensus on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that everything on the South District Neighborhood Art Project?
Yeah.
Great. Do you want to give us an intro to the management plan?
Yeah,
Stuff.
I was thinking that it would be good for us to just begin thinking about fiscal year '24, since fiscal 23 is well underway. Those projects are coming along, even the ones that we were behind on. We can begin, now I think we can begin some planning for FY '24. And we had talked, when we were doing our budgeting for '23, about doing a large amount of matching grants this year while other larger projects were getting wrapped up, with the idea that FY '24, the next year, we'd do a larger project and maybe scale back or not do matching grants to the extent that we are this year. So I went to our management plan that we haven't looked at in a year or so, and rather than give you the entire thing in one bite, I just copied the policies and procedures for citing and displaying art. I wanted us to go through those, see if it still seems reasonable, a reasonable approach for doing this, and then get some feedback on what you all would need or like to see in order to kind of distill down what a larger project for FY '24 might be. I thought it made sense starting with this management plan here. It goes through the kind of why at the beginning, under 6.1, creating a sense of place, generating neighborhood and community identity, creating a spot for people to gather, enhancing the environment, transforming the landscape. And then the citing policies, and lastly, providing public access to this creative expression. And then the citing policies underneath were to encourage public enjoyment of the city's public art collection, we would place art in, on, or about any municipal building or other municipally owned, leased, or rented property. Because they're accessible to the public, basically. And this I thought was very important. The PAC will develop an artwork site plan that identifies and prioritizes locations on city property for placement of public art. And I don't think we've ever come up with a plan, at least that I could find in the records. And I thought that might help us, not only for FY '24, but help us sort of look ahead to 25 and 6 as well. So keep that in mind. I think that would be a good output for this committee over the next month or two, coming up with a plan. But figuring out how to do that also is going to be a challenge. Citing procedures, I don't know if we really need to go through that. Although, jump in if you disagree or have a comment about any of those procedures shown. But site selection recommendations, 6.4 there, were to identify and prioritize sites in parks and recreation areas, city facilities, and other public places for which artwork can be acquired by commission, direct purchase, or temporary loan to enhance these environments for our community and visitors. And so here's the how, kind of. Survey, analyze, and rank the options for placement of public artwork. And then in the areas below, not limited to these, but such as parks and open spaces, trails, public buildings, et cetera, traffic circles and medians, and so forth. So I started a list here that this looks familiar to those of you who've been on the committee for a while, but this kind of becomes a large list, and distilling it down to priorities, I think will provide a challenge for us. So rather than continue through the document at the moment, I wanted you to take a look at the screen here, and see the parks and open spaces, streets, gateways, and maybe list some public buildings that you thought should or could be in the mix. That would be everything from City Hall. We have an example of public art around the corner here with the Tim Adams cutout stainless steel. And the rec center with, this is really gonna look goofy on the video, but the rec center with there's a big glass sculptural piece on the wall, and there's another piece up in the front lobby, and there may be more than that. Mercer, I'm not sure what permanent artwork there is in Mercer. Do you know, Tyler?
The one wall that has the interactive features.
Oh, that's right. And that was kind of a climate change related one, wasn't it, or sustainability related?
I haven't looked at it closely for a while, so I'm not positive, but
Yeah.
there's also the bike rack play sculpture that's right outside in the parking lot there too at Mercer.
Oh, yeah. So I think what we're going to want to do is build out a list like this and somehow run it through the funnels and prioritize and see what comes to the top for the kinds of places that we would put our next larger piece of public art. So let me get your comments on that. Does it sound right to put all that stuff in front of us, like this list is the beginning of? And then, and go from there. Do you think that we should include locations where there already is public artwork? So City Hall, for instance, would we leave that out of the mix now because we have a fairly new piece? We'd probably leave the rec center out because they have a couple pieces. Public Works, the Public Works building, is that a potential location for public art?
There's a potential, I think it would have to be exterior. You know,
Yeah,
we
for
got-
sure.
There's nothing in the building itself.
And I guess all the,
Definitely, almost every park could be considered if it's, you know, the right kind of work of art. And some of the parks obviously already have a substantial amount of art, but that doesn't mean they couldn't use more. I mean, Des Moines, for instance, has a whole park that has all public art, so I could see it both ways.
Yeah.
You know, spreading it around, or
I mean, you know, Waterworks Prairie Park, you know, in that master plan, there's a sculpture park in the area where they were gonna put the solar, you know, where Mid-America was looking for their solar project.
closer to the interstate?
Closer to the interstate,
Yeah.
yeah, down closer to the river.
Hmm.
So in the master plan for that park, there was a sculpture park laid out.
That'd be interesting.
There's also a discussion of an amphitheater in the north area to the west of the parking lot. It's kind of graded out that way, but
Is that where the sort of spiral concrete sidewalk is? Yeah, well, maybe it's not spiral, but it's an interesting kind of round
I know what you mean.
pad.
I have to look at it.
Okay. So if we can fill this list out, do you want to be the sort of arbiters of where the next piece goes? Or do you think it's time for more public input on that? We got public input in 2019, and we got some public input, I think it was in 2020 or 21. We could do that again.
Might be interesting to see if one of these main categories is a priority of the public. So like you say, almost any park or open space could have it, almost any building could have it, but if that's not the way the public would like us to go, it might be just kind of that broad level first to get a starting point.
So parks or open spaces,
Yeah,
streets and,
But that is kind of exactly what we asked a couple of years
Was it?
ago when we were forming the strategic plan.
Yeah.
And that's how these priorities came up. And if I
Maybe.
remember correctly, it was a pretty even distribution.
even, okay, that makes sense
Like-
then.
But, so my, I mean, I like the idea of getting some additional public input, but maybe we, because there was such kind of an even split, and it's what created these categories in the first place, I think, we identify a handful of like potential spots and then put that out to the public, so it's much more specific.
okay, so.
And then people can react to that.
Okay, so the committee narrows it down.
Yeah.
And the public makes the choice.
Yeah, rather than, I mean, it's kind of hard to imagine like gateways, you know, it's
Yeah.
so, it's hard to react to. So if we say this spot, you know,
Mm-hmm.
on Dubuque Street or whatever,
Mhm.
then people can, I think there'd be more participation probably as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. And we're not asking the public for the same questions we did just a couple of years
Exactly.
ago. Yeah. Okay.
But I
Some of
do-
these are newer since then too. There weren't near as many traffic circles at that time either, and some of those things may, you know, we're getting more and more of some of these things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But those particular specific spots would rise to the top with your work in narrowing things. And you'd come up with 5 or 10, say, and then that would go out to the public? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
That's
Okay. All right. That sounds good.
So are you saying we should do some homework, or, and who's gonna kind of lead the charge on creating the list of our master, site plan?
I can do that.
Okay.
And then, maybe at our December meeting, we can figure out a way to whittle it down. A couple of years ago, we did just a quick survey among your committee members. A survey, monkey survey, that you did before the meeting. We brought the results of your votes to the meeting, and that got us a little bit ahead in the discussion of what seemed to rise to the top. And then, so we weren't trying to hash through every little minute thing in the meeting, but we rather had a point to start
I like that.
discussions from. Okay, we can do that again.
It is every 10 minutes.
I have no
Oh,
idea.
the white thing? Yeah, I got the white thing.
That's the light control.
Oh, if I just hit on?
Yeah, so you should be able to just hit on.
That's easier than doing a little dance every time.
I kind of like it. Okay. Let's see.
Like when we were thinking about the sculpture pads, you put together a nice presentation of potential spots. Do you want to
Yeah.
help collaborate with?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, if you have some ideas on spaces, I can help pull some quick aerials together or whatnot.
Great.
Or, I mean, if you have
Or
ideas on
images.
spaces too, like
Yeah.
suggestions.
Yeah, that'd be
Locations.
fine.
And I know, like, for gateways, like I had mentioned the Dubuque one, but you said that we were having or that in the master plan or something, there was gonna be a entry sign or something that was gonna go in there. and then
Yes, that's
near-
like the university's actually working on an entry sign
Yeah.
now, so yeah,
So that's probably not the best spot to focus it.
probably not.
Yeah.
Is that going to be all of them, or are they going to ask for?
The city's participating in it some way, shape, or form, but, yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, we have a concept for a gateway on Dodge Street at the I-80 interchange.
Mhm.
We have some ideas there. The consultant had come up with a master plan there.
For
that.
more signage, kind of, or?
There was some sculpture pieces as a part of it too.
Okay.
The spots that don't have anything right now would be there on Dodge, and then each end, Highway 1, Highway 6. The airport kind of has a south entrance in a way, and Melrose has an entrance sign, and Dubuque has an entrance sign. They're old now, but yeah, we've got quite a few entrance areas that could have something.
Is there one on the south end, Highway 1? Nothing there? Same with on the east end, Highway 6? Okay. Okay.
So when you're talking about a bigger project, is that out of the $50,000 annual
Yeah.
budget? We would just have to determine what percentage of that would go towards probably one spot?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do one larger project and decide whether or not to do matching grants in FY '24.
To what scale?
Yeah, to what level?
And then do you have any ideas, like the riverfront crossings? Is
No.
that gonna come through this committee?
You know, I'm waiting for Jeff's signal on that. He said that the first thing we'll do with that is work with the county on some sort of memorial artwork to Lulu Johnson, the new namesake of Johnson County. And there will be other things as well that will be done with that, but I don't know what, and there are can be a lot of things that could be in the bucket of public art, including streetscapes, including.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so more to come on that.
Don't get your hopes up for a big sculpture.
Yeah, yeah. Although, I think we can explore ideas and present them saying, boy, the Public Art Advisory Committee had a great idea for the use of those public art funds. And, it has to happen in the Riverfront Crossings area. So, as an example, it could be I suppose it could be a very artful pavilion or some structure that is added to the park, that kind of thing.
Is there anything, do you know, from the design of that park or master plan that didn't get built?
Amphitheater is planned for but not built. It's kind of it's an amphitheater and kayak launch on the north corner of what currently is the park. It's
The like amphitheater zone is there, but not, was there supposed to be a stage or something?
it's actually closer to the river from that, so
Oh,
that's kind of like a bowled out open space. This wouldn't be as much like concert size, but like smaller, but still a substantial amount of space to have people, gathering.
That also function as a kayak launch?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep. So the seats would look towards the river. So the river would be the backdrop. So that has been through master planning, but it has not, it has not been funded. It's on the unfunded list. And I don't remember if there were specific art components pieces with that. I don't remember one offhand, but
I always like to reach out to ask people that think about this more than we do. Like, would it be worth engaging, I don't know, PS1 or other art organizations in town to solicit some ideas about this? Or do you think?
I think we'd need to really tailor the question for them. I'm not sure we know what we want to ask them yet, do we? One of the things I just learned about was public art master plans, and Marion has one, Dubuque has one, and they use them to sort of guide what they do every year, and they are able to use that as a lever, basically, to get other grants and other things to help, meet the goals of that master plan. And I think that's different than the strategic plan.
Did we? I feel like we might have even said in the strategic plan that we would develop a master plan. But yeah, it's a good idea. It would be a helpful tool in times like this to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I sometimes feel like we're throwing darts at the
Yeah, we
location.
have to make priorities.
Yeah, yeah. But for FY '24, I don't think we'll have a new master plan in place yet, and we'll have to. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right, maybe that's one of our budgeting items in FY '24. Or maybe that's a suggestion for the Riverfront Crossings Art Fund, where, very
Hey.
good. Thanks, Ron, the on switch. I'm not sure, because we'd be talking about a master plan for art in all of Iowa City, if the funding that comes from Riverfront Crossings and is supposed to stay in Riverfront Crossings could pay for a master plan that would reach across Riverfront Crossings in the whole community. We'd have to figure that out. Ron. Okay.
Yeah,
Not for those funds,
yeah.
but do you think it's something that is a reasonable ask for either our budget or
I think so.
whatever, is there another budget the city would have that would help with that, or do you think it would have to come out of the
I
50,000?
think we just would have to depend on how we frame it.
Yeah.
I mean, you could probably pay a partial of it. I mean, if you're looking, I mean, obviously it's a citywide plan, right? And the Riverfront Crossings is a part of Iowa City, so you could probably leverage some of those funds to pay for a portion of the master plan.
Okay. Well, I'll do some research on public art master plans, range of costs, talk with the other Iowa communities that we know have them, see what their experience has been. But in the meantime, we have our FY '24 that we're gonna try and distill down. Would it be helpful if I sent this list out to you all by email? And you can add to it, and then we'll go from there in terms of ranking and prioritizing?
And then you'll send, towards the end, before our next meeting?
Yeah,
you'll send
before
a
next
little
meeting, so you
quiz with where we'll rank our favorites or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah, sound good? Great.
We're thinking about locations. Is there like a size to be thinking of for these works, or because that, it makes a big difference on site selection. It was a little bit easier with the rotating ones because we had a pad size that we knew it was going to sit on. And we knew it was going to be a sculpture. This is a little more ambiguous with what it could be
Yeah.
as well.
Well, I think rather than think about size first, we think about locations first, and then we consider feasibility, cost feasibility, because if you've got a huge space to fill, obviously, at least I think it's obvious that it would cost more to purchase public art for a larger, more significant piece. And even, for example, in the roundabouts, you're gonna have to have something that's fairly substantial to, not look like it isn't in scale.
Is there a way to light things on those roundabouts? Is there any kind of power in the center of those?
That's right.
Not the center.
None.
I mean, you could get power to the center, but,
It's not set up.
but it's not, there's not power there currently.
Okay, well, I think I have a plan for how to move forward for you to do next steps before next month,
Yeah, thanks for initiating that.
Yep.
It's good to be planning ahead.
ahead of the game. Yeah, I know, feels good. Okay, so. Staff updates. I wanted to show you a couple slides. This time I do want the lights to come off. Well, maybe I don't need to.
We can see it well on the monitors.
Sorry. Keep going. Okay, now you can see it super well. This is the Simple Flight sculpture out in the Peninsula Park before its restoration. And you can see on the right, remember the paint was chipping from the eyeballs and the wing in the back there. And it was all overgrown. You can see that on the left slide. More details of the condition of it then, and it was just reinstalled. And here's what it looks like. They just did a great job on it, I think. The eyes and the nose have a metallic, sort of a metal flake in the powder coat paint. And it just really brings it all out. And when I was there while they were reinstalling it, and a jogger came by and said, she was so emotional, she said, "Oh, it's back, I thought it was gone forever." She said she had emailed her daughter and said the dragonfly that they used to get their pictures taken in front of every year as the child grew was gone, and it was so sad, and she was just elated that it was back. So that was a cool on-the-spot reaction. And you can see how it's cleared out around, so hopefully it'll sort of enjoy a new prominence. This was it that morning, and then that on the right is Dave Dennis, who did he's the one who organized the whole restoration of it. And he put a new, you can see a little white sliver under the bottom of the left slide there. Some sort of polyurethane to keep protective layer between the concrete and the steel, which should help it stay good for another 10 years or more. That's that. And then finally, the new bench was installed. This is the one by Anna Cann, Kann, in the Kiwanis Park, the gathering space bench that she did, that you all chose the design of. And I think it turned out great. There's little handprints along the bottom. I don't know if you can see them right along here. Maybe it's easier here. Cut out handprints of children, and children running, and butterflies and prairie grasses. And it's called Prairie Gathering. Yeah, Prairie Gathering. So hopefully the neighborhood is happy. I'm not sure if their neighborhood leadership was going to do any formal event out there. But we figured that's on their.
Was there an update on the Black Hawk Mini Park project?
Oh, yeah. I have not been able to get a hold of Dawson Davenport. No. So we have his artwork from the first half of the project, and we could get the sign made with the artwork that we do have, but in the sign is a QR code, in the design is a QR code that will lead people who, enact it or whatever to a website that has information about Black Hawk and the mini park itself. I kind of hate to go ahead with having that and then not having the Black Hawk Mini Park text completed. So I'm not quite sure the best thing to do. I know he's told us that he was going to be going out east somewhere for an artist in residence for a month in November. So that's probably why we're not hearing back from him. But I also know that he's got a big project started with the former Unitarian Church and creating a space for indigenous community and art to happen there. So his hands are full, as they always have been. I don't know that we're in a huge hurry to get this thing done. I'd love to be able to wrap it up. I don't know, any input on, he hasn't been paid for the second part of the project, but I feel like the second part of the project is holding up the first part, since we'll incorporate that QR code.
Where is this gonna be installed at?
In the planter that is right next to Artisans Gallery, if you're rounding that corner and gonna go into the Ped
So now
Mall.
it's kinda hidden by the pop-up shops.
Yeah.
It would be closer to Washington Street sidewalk.
I mean, timing of it, it may be better to wait until after the holiday season anyway, so maybe a spring installation may work better.
Yeah, that's probably true. If it's okay. And I have all the confidence that he'll get it done on his own schedule. But it just, is, you know, a little bit of a wait, and just, you know, a little bit of wrap up that I was hoping to get done earlier, so.
I guess it's too far. It'd be nice if it was there, right? Because the pop-up shops are a draw
Yeah.
to that
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
So you'd get some viewing that maybe you wouldn't have,
Mhm.
but
Yeah. If we get it in the spring, maybe more people will be out in the spring and see it anyway, so.
that's gonna be printed on the acrylic, right? On the panel itself?
Yeah, there's actually some sort of,
Really not a way to block out the QR code or a way to have it be there, but,
Sticker over it.
yeah.
Coming soon.
Post-it note over top of it for the winter until the website started.
yeah. Yeah.
Peel this sticker in 6 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think we'll be okay waiting until the spring to get it done. I was just hoping to cross it off the list, so. And that's all I had.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, I don't have anything else.
Motion adjourned?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.